I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program. Thanks so much for being with us today. We really appreciate it. Boy, we had an explosive day yesterday at the 92nd General Assembly, all over a bill that would have tweaked the code, and it would have made it a little easier for people if they're ever in a terrible situation you never want to be in, talking about the stand your ground law. My goodness, last night the Senate Judiciary Committee met, and they went into what legislatively would, when it comes to the amount of time they normally spend down there, would be considered late into the night. But it was just, I think they were done by 7 or so. My goodness. Well, let's just get right to it. This was, Senator Flowers, Democrat Senator Flowers. She was not a fan of the idea of a stand your ground law. Now, consequently, if you were following the program yesterday, we were interviewing the Patriots of Act 746, Tim Loggins, who had originally been working on a House bill with State Representative Aaron Pilkington, as well as Senator Gary Stubblefield on a stand your ground law. And then yesterday on the program, they said that that they were no longer, they weren't against the bill, but they were no longer necessarily, pushing with it just because of some past issues, specifically with Senator Ballinger from 2 years ago and everything that ended up happening with the NRA and just how it didn't actually end up helping the people in terms of their liberty. And so and I may be putting some words in people's mouths or whatever, but I mean, the interview was there. I thought that was interesting. And so this was fully Senator Ballinger's stand your ground bill. This was a bill this was a new Senate bill that he filed, and the NRA got involved. Moms Demand Action was all over the place. They stayed up there all day to hear this bill because it was originally going to be heard that morning in the Senate Judiciary Committee. Then they met upon 10 minutes after adjournment, and they were back, and they were there from about 4 o'clock till 7 o'clock last night. And here's the most explosive thing. I don't know if you've heard this, but Senator Flowers, the Democrat, points out that she's the only one on the committee who is black and who has the color of skin she does, and she also is the only one. She kept mentioning that she was a son, or that she was a mother, and she cared a lot about her son, and she brought up Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman. Just listen to this. This is audio only because I haven't had time to edit a video because there is a 4-letter word said that is not suitable for the radio under FCC guidelines and regulations. This is from last night. Senator Flowers, listen to this.
Well, the chair formally voted no, but I'm going to let y'all off easy and vote yes, and it's going to pass 5-3.
Okay.
Because prior to the night, y'all have been really good, so.
Well,
and now we know. Now we know why we want to limit debate.
Yeah. Well, Matt makes a comment. Matt, a comment.
Quickly.
I'll be as quick as I can, as quick as it takes to kill somebody, I guess. You want me to be that quick. But, as Ms. Fletcher pointed out, and it doesn't take much to look on the local news every night and see how many black kids, black boys, black men are being killed with these stand your ground defenses that these people raise. Then they get off. So I take issue with that. I'm the only person here of color, okay? I am a mother, too. And I have a son. And I care as much for my son as y'all care for y'all's. But my son doesn't walk the same path as yours does. So this debate deserves more time. I'm in Pine Bluff. We have killings regularly down there. Mr. Hunter knows, he's our prosecutor. Now, I don't know where the heck, I know where you are from, Gary. And I don't know really where Mr. Ballinger is from. But I can tell you that for a long time since I've been back here in Arkansas, I have feared for my son's life. Now, he's 27, he's out of Arkansas. And I thank God he is. When you're bringing up crap like this, it offends me. And then to limit the debate too, this is crazy. You don't have to worry about your children, Will. I worry about my son. And I worry about other little black boys and girls. And people coming into my neighborhood, into my city, saying they got open carry rights, walking down in front of my doggone office in front of the courthouse. That's a bully. Do I have a right to stand my ground with some crazy-ass person walking around with a doggone gun? I don't know what the hell he intends to do. But I know I am scared. I feel threatened. Just like some of y'all walking around here up in the legislature with these damn guns. That, what's his name, Garner came in here, walking around here with a damn gun under his coat. You can see the damn print.
Senator, you need to stop.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't. What the hell you gonna do? Shoot me?
Senator.
Senator, go to hell. I'm telling you, this deserves more attention. You want to come up here with all these little NRA bills and bills that Alec have and all that stuff. I'm talking about my son's life. And I'm talking about the lives of other black kids. Do what the hell you want to do. Go ahead. But you can't silence me. You got your damn silence gun out the damn chamber today. But you are not going to silence me.
Senator Flowers, if anybody hasn't tried to silence you, it's me.
All right. So this was, again, Senator Stephanie Flowers, Democrat. She is the vice chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee. She left there, if you heard it, to go smoke a cigarette because she was emotional, to say the least. She was upset. Now, a couple of things that happened. Earlier in the committee, there was an attempt to limit debate on this Stand Your Ground legislation. By the way, the bill failed. It went down in flames. Republican Senator John Cooper voted against this legislation because I'm assuming Prosecutors Association as well as Sheriff's Association, they're against the change in this law. They think the law is fine if you're out in public, you know, and you need to take action or whatever. But anyway, we're not talking about the merits of the bill quite yet. We're just talking about this outrageous reaction. The chairman of the committee is Senator Alan Clark, who I actually think did a fine job keeping his cool here, because I'm not really sure I could have. I don't know what I would have done in that situation. I mean, her comments were unreal. Matter of fact, she gets very personal here in a minute on Senator Ballinger, which we're going to pick that audio up here in a minute, because she left the committee to smoke a cigarette and then comes back, and towards the end when they bring it up to a vote, she goes off again. Now, she referenced Senator Trent Garner and him having a gun, quote, these damn guns up here in the legislature. And that's because there is the enhanced carry, which is a terrible law But and it was written really just so legislators could have guns at the Capitol. I mean, that was always what I thought they were trying to do. You get an extra permission slip and you can carry in what's considered sensitive areas or whatever. But that's what. So essentially, what we have here is Senator Stephanie Flowers was triggered, and I mean triggered by this. No pun intended. Stand your ground law, and she brings up. She brought up earlier in the debate, and maybe we'll go back and listen to some of this, the Trayvon Martin. She says the Florida Stand Your Ground law essentially gave George Zimmerman the right to kill an unarmed black 17-year-old teenager. I wonder, as a conservative movement, though, do you guys remember exactly what happened with that? There was an altercation. He was acquitted because it was found that he was defending himself because there was a tussle. At first, the media was saying not only was George Zimmerman a stalker, that George Zimmerman, they were saying he was specifically targeting Trayvon Martin because he was black. Do you remember this? Do you remember the edited NBC 911 call where they were playing George Zimmerman's voice saying he looks black? And the idea was that was falsely portrayed was he looks black and I'm going to get him. He looks black and I'm going to get him, And then we found out that it was an edited 911 tape that NBC News put together to stoke racial tensions in this country. You had Obama. If I had a son, he looked like Trayvon. Remember all of this? We found out that the 911 operator actually asked George Zimmerman, what race is he? And then he answered, and they edited all that part out. Do you remember when the Associated Press during this time, the Associated Press actually created the term white Hispanic because George Zimmerman was Hispanic, and they created the term white Hispanic just so they could have the narrative that a white person killed a black teenager. Anyway, I just wonder if I really wonder if this whole situation is I wonder if Senator Flowers here actually even knew that. Does she even know about the edited 911 tape? It's I'm just probably too late to convince anybody. What an unhinged rant. If you want to know, if you're worried about how the left is and how they feel about guns, this is at least a very honest interpretation. And when Senator Flowers says, your son will, you don't have to worry about your son will, that's talking to Democrat Senator Will Bond, who is white, and that's what she's saying there. She's essentially saying, you're white, you don't have to worry about your son. And it was Will Bond who later in this committee meeting actually wanted to limit debate because they were there and they're going to be there till who knew when. So it was Democrat Senator Will Bond was like, hey, 10 minutes aside, but without taking questions. So questions don't count against the 10 minutes. And that is what triggered Senator Stephanie Flowers. Big time. And then so she takes a cigarette break. Joe, if you're listening, we can actually play this video for you. She takes a cigarette break. If you can head on over to the 6:27:49 mark of that video, Joe, and she comes back, and this is where she gets very personal, directed right at Senator Bob Ballinger. Listen to this.
Mr. Stubblefield, further discussion from the committee?
I'll say this.
Okay, I think, Senator Bond, did you go ahead, Senator Flowers?
I think with this bill, I think, at least for me, and because of who I am, what I look like, I would feel threatened by anybody coming around, especially you, Senator Ballinger. You are threatening to me and to my family. And I can't imagine you.
Senator Flowers.
Well, let me finish. It's not your time. But obviously, you're from a part of the state where you don't see people of color so much. And some of the things that, the behaviors that I have, the expressions that I make, the way I express myself, probably would make you feel threatened. But it wasn't intended that way. And people from different cultures, particularly black people, the people that I grow up around and I live around, that live around me, they feel threatened by a person like you walking into their community, just like that man down there in Zimmerman in Florida felt about Travion. Walking in his daddy's community, but that guy had never seen him. And he's going to demand what he's doing. Well, I'm not going to take the time when you come down there to Pine Bluff to tell me that. But you can be assured that I'll have my doggone gun there. And I'll feel threatened. And I wonder whether I will be justified with a stand your ground defense. Because walking around with guns on your hip and under your coat, and you can see the imprint, is threatening. You don't know the circumstances that people have gone through. We got killings down there in Jefferson County all the time. And people feel threatened. And I don't know where you come from with all this. Is your community so bad that are you planning to come down to Jefferson County with this crap? And if you do, we're going to have a response. And we're going to invoke this stand your ground defense if this thing passes.
Senator Bond?
And I know we're ready to go, but at some point we've heard from the prosecutors, we've heard from sheriffs, state police, and what we have now is working. There's no reason to change it. Thank you.
Well, what I have is not really on the bill, but it's been brought up so many
apparently,
times.
from what I can tell, Senator Stephanie Flowers here is under the impression that if the Stand Your Ground bill passes, then it just gives you license to shoot people of the opposite race. Now, I don't know about you, but that also sounded very, very close to a threat. I don't know about you, but I mean, it sounded to me like it was a threat. Like, hey, well, if you do come down to Pine Bluff, Bob, then we're gonna shoot you and claim stand your ground defense. Am I missing something here? Is that not what was said? Is that not what was that? To me, that's what it sounded like. I don't know. We'll play you the other rant. If you missed the first rant is much more theatrical and spectacular. The headline today, Senator Stephanie Flowers has been triggered by a Stand Your Ground law that was Bob Ballinger's. And again, it failed yesterday, and the vote to expunge failed as well. We'll be back in just a moment.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hey, folks, welcome back to the program. We got State Representative Jack Laneyman on the line. He's a state representative for District 59. Jack, remind us geographically, where is that?
Well, good morning, Paul. Thanks for having me on this morning.
Yes, sir.
District 59 is primarily northeast Craighead County. Includes north and west Jonesboro, Bono, Cache, out that way.
And I know you're in Little Rock right now, and the legislative day is going to kick off here pretty soon. I wanted to have you on, sir, because you're the chair of the powerful. A lot of people are interested in the Public Health Committee. And so you're the chairman of that, and you guys are now starting week number 3 of Scope Week, or the Scope Weeks, I guess.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is building a liberty machine. Find out more at conduitnews.com.
A few of your comments after those. Janet writing, what an embarrassment to Arkansas Senator Flowers is. Let's see here. A lot of people feeling that Senator Flowers is making racist comments in her rant. And let me see here. Yeah, John writing, that's racial profiling, and talking about where Senator Ballinger's from and everything else. If you missed the first rant, here it is. Listen.
Well, the chair formally voted no, but I'm going to let y'all off easy and vote yes, and it's going to pass 5-3.
Okay.
Because prior to the night, y'all have been really good, so. And now we know why we want to limit debate.
Yeah, well, Matt, make a comment. Matt, comment.
Quickly.
I'll be as quick as I can, as quick as it takes to kill somebody, I guess. You want me to be that quick. But, you know, as Ms. Fletcher pointed out, and it doesn't take much to look on the local news every night and see how many black kids, black boys, black men are being killed with these stand-your-ground defenses that these people raise, and they get off. So I take issue with that. I'm the only person here of color, okay? I am a mother, too. And I have a son. And I care as much for my son as y'all care for y'all's. But my son doesn't walk the same path as yours does. So this debate deserves more time. I'm in Pine Bluff. We have killings regularly down there. Mr. Hunter knows, he's our prosecutor. Now, I don't know where the heck, I know where you are from, Gary. And I don't know really where Mr. Ballinger is from. But I can tell you that for a long time since I've been back here in Arkansas, I have feared for my son's life. Now, he's 27, he's out of Arkansas. And I thank God he is when you're bringing up crap like this. It offends me. And then to limit the debate too, this is crazy. You don't have to worry about your children, Will. I worry about my son. And I worry about other little black boys and girls. And people coming into my neighborhood, into my city, saying they got open carry rights, walking down in front of my doggone office in front of the courthouse. That's a bully. Do I have a right to stand my ground with some crazy-ass person walking around with a doggone gun? I don't know what the hell he intends to do. But I know I am scared. I feel threatened. Just like some of y'all walking around here up in the legislature with these damn guns. That, what's his name, Garner came in here, walking around here with a damn gun under his coat. You can see the damn print.
Senator, you need to stop.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't. What the hell are you gonna do? Shoot me?
Senator.
Go to hell. I'm telling you, this deserves more attention. You want to come up here with all these little NRA bills and bills that Alec have and all that stuff. I'm talking about my son's life. And I'm talking about the lives of other black kids.
Arkansas's version of Maxine Waters, everybody. Back in just a moment. How's it going so far, in your opinion?
Well, Paul, I think it's going very well, and as you said, it's one of the busiest committees in the House, and it's quite different being a chairman and of one of the committees that see a lot of the bills. Keeps me busy, I'll say that. But yeah, one of the things that we do in public health and labor, now it's labor and welfare is also rolled in there, so we see all of the ADEQ, the labor, all those bills as well. But one of the things that we do is scope of practice, and of course that affects, you know, our doctors, our pharmacists, our nurses, and what they are, what they practice and what they're allowed to practice. So it is very important, and as you can imagine, there are a lot of people that are interested in those bills. And so we draw a crowd.
Oh, man.
A lot of people are here for that. As you know, you've been in the room.
I have. Standing room only. And, man, a lot of white coats. It's like which flock of white coats is coming in today. Like, what's your medical profession? And, you know, you never really know. But, yeah, you know, to me, it's been interesting to watch. You know, do you think changing scope of practice, meaning expanding what medical professionals can do, is that something that's pretty difficult from your point of view? Have you seen it? It's a hard thing to get the committee on board with changing things.
It's very difficult, Paul. And those bills, as you know, you've been in there, they've been vetted really, really well. And we've already had three, maybe four votes that have been 10-10. And so that's how that committee is split.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, I think that's a good thing because we've got a lot of medical folks on that board. We've got people like me that have been involved in labor. We've got small business owners on there. So we've got a good mix, and we really do look at those bills. Now, one of the things that we talk about a lot is that, you know, I'm a labor, an engineer, and I'm vetting doctors' scopes. And, you know, people say, well, are you able to do that? But we need the views of different groups of people with different backgrounds. Because here's the bottom line, Paul. What these scope of practice bills basically do is they talk about, you know, what can nurses do? Can nurses do more, which in turn would cost less and would increase access in rural areas of Arkansas? Can they effectively and safely do more? Can pharmacists do more? Can anesthesiologists, nurses do more? If they can, if they are fully capable.
Bringing you your daily dose of truth. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, welcome back to the show. Good grief, that audio is explosive. You're going to hear this everywhere. This matter of fact, the audio, the unedited audio, where did you hear where Senator Flowers told Alan Clark to go to hell? Did you hear that part? And then the senator expletive part when Senator Clark was trying to calm her down. My goodness. And so it just went on and on and on. And honestly, if you listen to that last part, I think it was a threat. And what I'm wondering is there some action that needs to take place after this type of explosive, this lack of congeniality, this lack of decorum, this animosity that just erupted from Senator Flowers? Is there some sort of process or some sort of censure that needs to occur? I don't even know what the Senate rules are for that. But the irrational, emotional, and she eventually said, I don't know if you heard this, but she eventually said, you got to give me some slack here because I'm upset. No, I'm sorry. No, not necessarily. Everybody gets upset about all kinds of things. This was just incredible to me. The telephone number, if you want to text us, is 870-275-9799. Coming up on the program, I want to introduce you to an executive committee man for the Benton County Republican Party. Octavio Sanchez will be on this program. We're going to be talking to Octavio because he was born in Mexico. He came on an H-1 visa. And he's been in the United States now for 20 years. is a citizen, and I wanted to have him on to talk about legal immigration versus border security. And I don't know if you've seen the news, but did you see the Homeland Security Secretary yesterday in Washington, D.C.? Those numbers are pretty eye-opening about how bad things are. Then at the bottom of the next hour, also, Fort Smith Attorney Joey McCutcheon will be back on. We're going to talk to him about some of these new developments with this special election in Fort Smith, trying to tax the people even more so they can pay for this U.S. Marshals Museum, which is just supposed to be some sort of massive tourist attraction. But it probably, I mean, I don't think it will. But that's my opinion. So we'll talk about that with Joey McCutcheon at 7:30 this morning. Yeah, let me go back to this stand your ground bill for a second, because I'm not through here. Joe, I want to kind of show you where this started to go off the rails, where Senator Flowers exactly started to get triggered. This was not a typical Senate Judiciary Committee meeting, mainly just because it took place well into the afternoon. Started at 4, didn't finish till after 7, I think. They were because they had all these bills all of a sudden, and I know Senator Clark, and I know he has actually taken great pride in being the chairman of this committee, going down to the floor on Thursdays and telling people that they're caught up. And the Senate, it's week 5, and proud to report the Senate Judiciary Committee is caught up. Week 6, we're caught up. He wants to get caught up. Matter of fact, I think they're going to meet Monday after adjournment as well. And that's why they were working hard in the night, trying to let everybody who has a bill that wants to run in that committee run it. And I don't know if Senator Flowers just, if it might have just been a perfect storm, the perfect environment for her to lash out like she did. But she had legitimate questions. Joe, go ahead and cue it up at that first 4:20:43 mark. And let's listen to some of this back and forth here between Senator Flowers and Senator Ballinger. Take a listen.
The person failed to retreat when they could have avoided everything.
Correct.
Avoided a killing.
That's why this is a stand your ground law, just like 31 other states that have that same.
And just like in Florida, when Trayvon Martin was shot for doing nothing, for not posing a threat.
Yeah, I would say that in Florida, the situation there, and I don't remember the guy's name, didn't get off based on the stand your ground law in Florida. That became a big issue, but that wasn't the defense that they used.
Well, he provoked it. He attacked the young man.
And if that's the case, then he would not be availed any benefit under this law.
But he did in Florida.
Yeah, so our law may be different than what Florida is, and I'm not familiar
because
exactly
you're creating something that nobody else understands or nobody else wanted for the last several years.
Yeah, this is very similar to a law that we have in 31 of the states that doesn't require retreat.
And which state do you see has really fulfilled the purpose of and the intent of what you're doing here?
There are 31 other states that are doing it and working through that situation. And I don't know exactly what you want from the question, but there's a bunch of other states that are actually carrying this out.
You would agree that it's been controversial in many states.
Yeah, it has become very controversial recently, and I think pointing out the situation with Trayvon Martin has become more controversial since then. But I think President Barack Obama, when he was state senator, Barack Obama actually co-sponsored a self-defense law that removed the requirement for retreat when he was a state senator, and that's because the mentality of this has changed, where this is no longer used to is about protecting the victims, and now it's more about guns. And in this case, I think that's disappointing, but this is about protecting victims.
So you're blaming it on Obama now?
Well, as a Republican, that's my job.
And is it your job to bring these bills that are so controversial in other states to Arkansas?
I really, honestly, I don't feel like 31 other states have passed this. Arkansas is way behind on self-defense reform. I think this is probably something that needs to be done, that we can get it done. I think that
all right,
Senator Bond pointed out way back in 2011.
And see, this is where it kind of starts to go off the rails. Okay. And that's Senator Bob Ballinger. That's Senator Stephanie Flowers. Okay, this is pre-triggered. This is pre-rant. Okay, skip into the 429 mark, Joe. Whenever you're ready, sir. Go ahead.
I hate that, but this legislation wouldn't increase that chance or decrease that chance.
Senator Flowers.
Do you think this might encourage vigilante activity?
No, because the aggressors are not providing any benefit out of this.
Well, if somebody's walking around with a gun, even if they have a permit or they're lawfully carrying the weapon, you don't have any thought that they might just be looking for something to go off and to react to?
That's pretty inconsistent with my view of the Arkansas public. I don't think so. I don't think most of the people who are carrying guns, I mean, you cannot be a felon and possess a gun. You got to be a law-abiding citizen to possess a gun. I think most of them are extremely careful. They're thinkers. I think that they're not. I think there's very few people out there. I do understand that that's a fear that people have, but I think that's probably unfounded. There are obviously vigilantes. There are criminals out there, but at the same time, what we do with this bill isn't going to change whether a person decides to commit crimes or not decide to commit crimes.
Do you think, is it, in your mind, is it conceivable that it's reasonable that somebody who is around somebody that is open carrying or clearly has a weapon, and whether they draw it or not, do you think that they might be feeling threatened?
No, that would be unreasonable.
Why would that be unreasonable? If somebody comes around you, even you're in a public place, and maybe they bump into you, or vice versa. If the person with the weapon is bumped or touched and reacts in a way that they think it's reasonable that somebody's trying to attack them or something. So are we putting things in, or trying to submit things into our law that just don't make sense at all to you? I mean, do you not see a problem with this in any way at all?
Senator Flowers, the scenario you're just mentioning, that is the same with or without. This first paragraph, in 52606 is present with or without my language. So the question is whether it's reasonable for the person to feel like he's got under risk of imminent bodily harm. So that if the question if they're unreasonable, they're unreasonable. And I'd say yes, Senator Flowers, that would be extremely unreasonable for someone to use deadly force in that scenario. And the finder of fact would agree that the reasonable person in that situation also would not agree that that's reasonable.
So if a person, just like I think under our law we have aggravated robbery for shoplifters that snatch a purse or push past a security officer or some of the store employees or something, is that a threat of physical force?
I would say it would probably depend on the situation. Under what you described right there with the little bit of information that we have about that scenario, that doesn't sound reasonable to me, but I don't know. So it depends on who the actors are and who's involved. But honestly, I don't know that matters, because that is under current self-defense law, that would still be the same situation. The question there is, what are you talking about, whether they have a duty to retreat or not? That's all we've done is change that. And like I said, most of the time the prosecutors in their consideration of that, it's whether or not they can retreat in complete safety. And
all right,
usually
go ahead
the way
and
they
stop
come down
there.
on
all
it.
right, so this is kind of building. You see, it's been going back and forth with Senator Ballinger here, okay? And Senator Flowers, back and forth, kind of peppering of questions. One thing I will add to this, because I'm watching some of the comments on here. Originally, this was not the plan to get a stand your ground law passed, or a better stand your ground law passed in Arkansas law. Originally, this was not the plan. The plan was to use Aaron Pilkington's bill. The plan was to go through the House. The plan was to then go through the Senate, and Gary Stubblefield was going to run the bill. And then something happened between the NRA and Bob Ballinger, where he writes his own bill and a Senate version, a Senate bill that I believe Aaron Pilkington was also behind. And then this is what has led to this point. Just to be quite honest, as somebody who loves the Second Amendment, as somebody who loves the idea or believes in the idea of liberty, believes in the idea of your right to human defense, the most natural right of self-preservation that we have that's given to us by God, somebody who believes that. There's a lot of people like Senator Flowers that don't believe in it. And in order, I guess my point is up until yesterday, there was a strategy. There was a strategy of people who work in the trenches, who reach out to lawmakers, who attempt to get good legislation that restores the liberty of people, that gives law-abiding people the benefit of the doubt. There was a strategy that was enacted, and that strategy was kind of just thrown out the window yesterday, and this is a result. This is a result. Cue up the audio-only version, Joe. Eventually it builds. Democrat Senator Will Bond decides to make a motion to limit debate. The motion carries on a roll call vote, and that then triggers Senator Stephanie Flowers. It sounded like this.
Well, the chair formally voted no, but I'm going to let y'all off easy and vote yes, and it's going to pass 5-3.
Okay.
Because prior to the night, y'all have been really good, so.
Well,
and now we know.
Now
we know why we want to limit debate.
Yeah, well, Matt, make a comment. Matt, comment.
Quickly.
I'll be as quick as I can, as quick as it takes to kill somebody, I guess. You want me to be that quick. But, as Ms. Fletcher pointed out, and it doesn't take much to look on the local news every night and see how many black kids, black boys, black men are being killed with these stand-your-ground defenses that these people raise, and they get off. So I take issue with that. I'm the only person here of color, okay? I am a mother, too. And I have a son. And I care as much for my son as y'all care for y'all's. But my son doesn't walk the same path as yours does. So this debate deserves more time. I'm in Pine Bluff. We have killings regularly down there. Mr. Hunter knows, he's our prosecutor. Now, I don't know where the heck, I know where you are from, Gary. And I don't know really where Mr. Ballinger is from. But I can tell you that for a long time since I've been back here in Arkansas, I have feared for my son's life. Now, he's 27, he's out of Arkansas. And I thank God he is. When you're bringing up crap like this, it offends me. And then to limit the debate too, this is crazy. You don't have to worry about your children, Will. I worry about my son. And I worry about other little black boys and girls. And people coming into my neighborhood, into my city, saying they got open carry rights, walking down in front of my doggone office in front of the courthouse. That's a bully. Do I have a right to stand my ground with some crazy-ass person walking around with a doggone gun? I don't know what the hell he intends to do. But I know I am scared. I feel threatened. Just like some of y'all walking around here up in the legislature with these damn guns. That, what's his name, Garner came in here, walking around here with a damn gun under his coat. You can see the damn print.
Senator, you need to stop.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't. What the hell you gonna do? Shoot me?
Senator.
Senator, go to hell. I'm telling you, this deserves more attention. You want to come up here with all these little NRA bills and bills that Alec have and all that stuff. I'm talking about my son's life. And I'm talking about the lives of other black kids. Do what the hell you want to do. Go ahead, but you can't silence me. You got your damn silence gun out the damn chamber today, but you are not going to silence me.
All right. And so then Senator Flowers steps out and she gets a cigarette, and then she comes back a second time. And we can give you the video of that one because there's no FCC forward letters in that one. This is what Senator Flowers came back to say at the very end of the debate.
Mr. Stubblefield, further discussion from the committee?
I'll say this.
Okay, I think, Senator Bond, did you go ahead, Senator Flowers?
You know, I think with this bill, I think, at least for me, and where, because of who I am, what I look like, I would feel threatened by anybody coming around, especially you, Senator Ballinger. You are threatening to me and to my family. And I can't imagine you.
Senator Flowers.
Well, let me finish. It's not your time. But obviously, you're from a part of the state where you don't see people of color so much. And some of the things that, the behaviors that I have, the expressions that I make, the way I express myself, probably would make you feel threatened. But it wasn't intended that way. And people from different cultures, particularly black people, the people that I grow up around and I live around, that live around me, they feel threatened by a person like you walking into their community, just like that man down there in Zimmerman in Florida felt about Travion. Walking in his daddy's community, but that guy had never seen him. And he's going to demand what he's doing. Well, I'm not going to take the time when you come down there to Pine Bluff to tell me that. But you can be assured that I'll have my doggone gun there. And I'll feel threatened. And I wonder whether I will be justified with a stand your ground defense. Because walking around with guns on your hip and under your coat, and you can see the imprint, is threatening. You don't know the circumstances that people have gone through. We got killings down there in Jefferson County all the time. And people feel threatened. And I don't know where you come from with all this. Is your community so bad that are you planning to come down to Jefferson County with this crap? And if you do, we're going to have a response. And we're going to invoke this stand your ground defense if this thing passes.
Senator Bond?
And I know we're ready to go, but at some point we've heard from the prosecutors, we've heard from sheriffs, state police, and what we have now is working. There's no reason to change it. Thank you.
Well, what I have is not really on the bill.
Okay. So that again was the blow up yesterday. That was yesterday afternoon. That's Senator Stephanie Flowers, and the bill failed because Senator John Cooper voted with the sheriffs and the prosecutors who didn't want to change the law. And this is, well, I mean, you heard the arguments. You didn't hear the whole thing, but it just is what it is. Senator Flowers, triggered by all of this, really coming out with racial statements. I mean, it really sounds like that Senator Flowers is saying that they would use the Stand Your Ground law to make sure white guys that look like Bob Ballinger, if they come to Jefferson County, are shot. That's what I just heard. I don't know if that's what you heard, but that's what I just heard. And the comments right now lighting up here on Facebook Live. Amy, those killings are perpetuated by illegal gun holders. Jeremy, she is just irrational. David writing, if you look at those murder statistics out of Pine Bluff, most murders are black on black. David, that's exactly right. As a matter of fact, Senator Alan Clark made those exact comments, and Senator Flowers said that they were fake news, even though he was reading from U.S. World News today, or World Report today, about the statistics. 90% of white people who are killed by other white people. I think it's similar. 90% of black people who are killed by other black people. And anyway, really amazing to kind of get a snapshot into the mind of Senator Flowers and how she views race relations in this country. We're going to take a break. We'll be back. You're listening to Conduit News Radio. Back in a moment.
Russellville-based firearms manufacturer Omega are making clones of the most notable German firearms in the world. These delayed rotor-lock firearms have been and are currently used by law enforcement and military worldwide. At Omega, they manufacture their guns right here in Arkansas and produce the best reproduction in the marketplace that comes with a complete 5-year warranty. At Omega, they take firearm manufacturing seriously and offer discounts to active and retired law enforcement. Whether you're using Omega firearms to defend the public, defend your family, or for target practice, Omega has your back. For pricing, go to omega-guns.com. That's omega-guns.com.
Trained and able to do that and provide quality service, then that will reduce costs for medical treatment, and it will give people in rural counties more access to that. So that's the goal. But it's difficult. It's very difficult.
And you would say, Jack, you're generally, as a Republican, you're on board with that goal, right?
I am. But the line, where do you draw the line, and how do you vet that? You want to make sure. I mean, if APRN can treat people out in rural South Arkansas without people driving all the way to Little Rock or some bigger city, then it's going to be less cost for those folks, and they're going to get treatment where in other cases they may not get that treatment. They may not have the resources to even get there. Mm-hmm. So that's one side. The other side is that you don't want people to get inadequate treatment that might cause them harm.
Yeah.
Determined to drain the swamp in Little Rock, it's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
People are saying that Senator Flowers has been this outspoken or, I guess, crazy. On the Facebook feed, they're saying that she's been this crazy for a very long time. Well, I guess we should thank the streaming. Finally, this is what happens when the Senate decides to finally stream their committees. Instead of keeping the people in the dark, we're able to see this outrageous behavior. And we're going to get a video up of this for everybody to see, ASAP. We'll get some screen capture going, some screen capture software, if you will. But, the main part of it is we've got some, she said a 4-letter word that you can't say on the radio. And so we had to just take the audio only so we could tone it out there. So for our online audience, for radio, you guys are fine, but our online audience was only hearing the audio of the first clip where she says, Senator Clark's like, Senator, and she's like, Senator expletive. And then she tells him to go to hell. Anyway, we will be talking with Mr. Octavio Sanchez when we come back. I want to introduce you to him. Don't go anywhere. We got one more hour coming your way next. Good morning, Arkansas. Thanks for listening.
Northeast Arkansas. This is News Talk 101.3 FM and 12:30 AM KBTM Jonesboro, an EAB radio station.
Yeah.
So where do you draw the line? That's the debate.
Yeah.
Every single bill.
Yeah, I agree that is what y'all are debating there. I can definitely see that. You know, I'm more of a I don't want to say pro-choice because that's going to be totally misconstrued. I want more choice out there for the consumer, and I want people to be able to volunteer. I don't want anyone, let's say, forced to go see an advanced practice nurse if they don't want to go see one. Yeah, but I would like, and I think generally this is what the deregulation side is for.
Well, that's a good point, Paul. You make a good point there because you still have the choice. You know, if we pass these bills, people still have the choice to go to the higher level training, physician.
Mm-hmm.
They still have that, and we want to make sure that people understand that we're not forcing them to go to a nurse.
Yeah. And of course, this particular bill, it failed. It was one of this nurse practitioner bill that would have expanded the scope. From what I understand, Jack, this would have been something that would have allowed nurse practitioners to do what other states, and I think it had something to do with an agreement, a contract or something.
Collaborative
agreement.
Collaborative agreement. Yeah. I don't want to get too far in the weeds on this, but what it is now, nurses in Arkansas, they're required to have a collaborative agreement with the doctor, and of course they have to pay for that. And the doctor gives oversight to those nurses that are working maybe out in a clinic by themselves out in Bono. Actually, we have one in Bono like that. And the doctor provides oversight. Well, that's a cost. So the nurses have to pass that cost on. So it increases the cost to folks.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can not require that collaborative agreement, a contract basically, then those nurses can still get information and call doctors and collaborate with other professionals, but they're not saddled with that cost.
Mm-hmm. And that was one of the bills that did fail last week, and it was a 10-10 tie. You need 11 votes to get out, and it was a 10-10, right?
Yeah, right.
Gosh.
The other one, the optometrist bill is another good example. That was a 10-10. One person didn't vote, but I think it was 10-10.
Mm-hmm.
But the same thing, the optometrists have a certain level of training. The ophthalmologist has a higher level of training, more years of practice. The question is, can these optometrists do some of the things, the minor things like minor laser, minor surgery, and can they do that effectively? If they can provide that service at a lower cost and more, in more areas of the state.
Mm-hmm.
They're in 65 counties. The ophthalmologists are only in, 18 or something like that.
Yeah.
So there aren't more available.
Wow. Well, and I was there that day, and you had horror stories, Jack, of one time an optometrist messed up, and this woman is now down in Louisiana, optometrist in Louisiana, and this woman is now blind, and that they really just it's been, I'll be honest, State Representative Jack Ladyman, it's been frustrating to see how hard it is to allow professionals who go to school and are trained and are allowed to do certain procedures in other states. For decades, Oklahoma's been allowing optometrists to do the specific procedures, that you were referencing, and Arkansas is just like, no, can't do it, and they claim it's about public safety, but I'm not so sure it is about public safety. I think it's more about control. But that's just my opinion.
You're right, Paul, and that's our job. We signed up for this, and that's what we have to vet these bills, and so you have to ferret out what the facts are. I'm not saying these things that they're telling us are not true; they're true. But were they caused by the optometrist, or there are things in the medical community that happen, unfortunately, at all levels of treatment.
Yes.
So what is actually relevant here and what is not,
mm-hmm.
and that's our job when we're on that committee, and we have to pay attention, we have to listen, because we want to protect our people, but we also want them to get treatment, and we want them to get treatment that they can afford.
Yeah.
And it's a tough job.
It is, and in the context of And I think this is an objective fact. I honestly, what I'm about to say is I don't think it can be disputed. I'm sure somebody on the left would.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to everybody out there. This is hour number 2. My name is Paul. This is Conduit News Radio. Find out more at conduitnews.com. Really appreciate you being with us. Phone number to text this morning, 870-275-9799. We just got through with pretty much an explosive hour going over the committee audio of Senator Stephanie Flowers. Vivian is her daughter in the House. Stephanie Flowers being triggered by a stand your ground law and really coming across as with what I consider to be racist comments. I mean, certainly if the roles were reversed, and you had a white man talking to a black woman the way Stephanie Flowers was talking to Senator Ballinger, I mean, I think people would lose their minds. I think there's clearly a double standard there by any objective measure. But anyway, we'll talk more about that a little later in the program. I want to introduce you guys to a man by the name of Octavio Sanchez. He joins us now on the phone. Octavio, how's it going, sir?
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Now, tell us a little bit about yourself, sir. I understand that you were born in Mexico, so tell us how you came to the United States.
I was born in Mexico. I started making my life over there, and I went to school, got a degree in engineering, got a master's degree in computer science, and got other titles like that. And I was working in a company that later became acquired by a company in Arkansas, and I was asked to come and work over here, which is what I did about 22 years ago.
Wow. And so you came over on an H-1 visa, and you also went through the naturalization process. Is that correct? So you're a citizen.
Yes, sir. I am a U.S. citizen, very proud of it.
Wow, that's great. And you're also now an executive committee man with the Benton County Republican Party. Tell us about that.
Well, I started my, let's say, my public life in the city. And later became invited to the county committee, and later I was elected one of the officers. Currently, I am the second vice chair of the committee. However, let me clarify that my opinions on this subject are not necessarily the opinions of the county.
Of course.
They are exclusively my own.
Of course, and you're also a city councilman, right, in Bentonville.
Yes, that's correct. And that's part of the incredibly beautiful place that we call America, in which a foreigner could come and make his life and eventually become elected as a member of city council in a beautiful city like it is Bentonville, which is, as I said, amazing and talks beauty about the country itself.
I completely agree with you. I mean, it really is the way to do it. I mean, and you came to this country legally, which is something that we don't see sometimes. Right now, we have an entire political party that wants to defend coming to this country illegally. What are your thoughts right now, Octavio Sanchez? What are your thoughts on what we should do at the border? Do you think a wall is a good idea? Do you think we have to stop illegal immigration?
Well, obviously, illegal immigration is wrong in every aspect of it. Immigration in itself is not wrong. Immigration is a natural process because, the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. That's natural. However, The countries must have territory, people, and laws, and they need to regulate that process to protect the interest of their own citizens. So that is the first part, and that is not happening, unfortunately, these days.
When you say protect the interests of its own citizens, I want to say I completely agree with you, but talk a little bit about that, because not only is there when it comes to protecting our interest, our economic interests, the infrastructure, the welfare programs that need to go for the truly needy Americans that are already here, but then we also have the violence, the drugs, the sex trafficking of little children. I heard the Homeland Security chief yesterday say that they have to give pregnancy tests to all girls 10 years old and up when they're detained at the border. This is a huge problem. So we talk about protecting the interests. We also have, to me, it's literally a national security issue. What are your thoughts, Octavio?
Oh, you are absolutely correct. The situation, the conversation on this subject could extend for hours and hours and hours and probably days. And I understand we only have a few minutes, Paul. So I can only say a few things because of time. But obviously the situation is really bad. If we consider that there is a total disaster in the sense of security and protection, not only to American citizens, but also to foreign citizens that are somehow invited or lured to come to the U.S. There are probably 2 billion people, based on recent polls, 2 billion people in the world that want to come to the U.S. And that is obviously something totally unmanageable for this country. So there is obviously the necessity for us as a country to regulate immigration. Every country has its own set of rules for immigration. Some of them do not allow their citizens to leave. Some of them are very strict on who goes into their country. In some other cases, they charge fees for people to go in and to go out. I was in one of those countries some years ago, and I saw one of the soldiers of that country kicking and hitting and doing bad things to a little foreign citizen who wanted to avoid the payment. And that's what they did. I went to another country not long ago that had a big sign on the border that says, "Do not do anything that it is not proper. If you do anything, we have the absolute right to kill you. Truly yours, the soldiers of this country." So there are many things that the countries are regulating among themselves for themselves in the sense of protecting what they see as their interest. I don't think America is doing a good job in that respect because the borders are not open, but in a very good way, wide open. It was last month, it was announced yesterday that last month during February, which only has 28 days, there were 76,000 apprehensions around the border, next to the border. It was a few weeks ago that I was in New Mexico, and I heard and I read that the governor is totally against the policies of President Trump, and she's going to recall the National Guard that is currently stationed in the New Mexico border with Mexico. Well, that is a sign of a total disagreement between the political powers of this country, and that is totally wrong because a house divided is not going to stand long.
You're exactly right. We're talking with Octavio Sanchez. He was born in Mexico. He's been here 20 years, a U.S. citizen. Now, you came on an H-1 visa. Now, I want to ask you about that. What is it that you do now? What's your skill set, Octavio?
Well, for a time, I was a civil engineer working in construction, but not too much. And then I started working on computers. And that's what I've been doing for many, many years, many years. And as I said, I have a specialization on computer systems. I was teaching computers and mathematics and other subjects in a national university in Mexico and other places. And then I was invited to come, as I said, to work the same type of job that I'm doing, which I like very much, which is database administration in a large computer system.
So Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton, he has tried to float ideas out there to where we need to kind of change some of our immigration policies to where we want people to come here that have the skills that you had that, and there are other countries that do this as well. I think Australia does this, where, we want you to be a productive member. If you're going to come here as an immigrant, we want you to, kind of immediately start contributing. There are people that call that racist. People on the left call it racist. They think that securing the border, keeping illegal immigrants out is racist. What do you think about it?
Well, I do not think it is racist, because that goes against every race in the whole world. There are some black people and white people and Hispanics and Asians and Russians and everybody that have very little education, very little training on the job, and especially the ability to adjust to the conditions of this country. So the rule in itself by Senator Cotton is not racist. It is, on the other hand, very protective of the citizens of this country. It is a situation that obviously many others do not consider important, because they think that other citizens are more important than the U.S. citizens, which is, in my opinion, totally wrong.
I completely agree with you. Again, we're talking with Octavio Sanchez. And I wanted to get your take on border security, and really appreciate your statistics about what happened again, in February. What do you think? Let me ask you this: Do you have any friends who are Hispanic that completely disagree with you?
Oh yes, yes. I have, as always, a big number of friends on one side that agree with me, but a certain number of friends on the other side who totally disagree with me. Mm-hmm. In one occasion, I was called traitor to the Hispanic race, but I'm not considering a Hispanic myself in the first term. The first, instead of a Mexican American, I call myself a Christian American, and that's my definition. So yes, some people disagree with me completely.
But you say you've been called a traitor.
Yes.
Wow. That's I really appreciate your perspective on this, Octavio, because it seems to me that you're rejecting and I reject this idea that we constantly have to put people in groups and divide against each other. You're only a traitor if you accept that false premise that we have to focus on our differences, and we can't focus on the things that unite us and bring us together. And I think if we would do more of that in this country, a lot of our problems would seem so much smaller than they are. But in order to do that, we have to somehow, the media just constantly wants to divide us, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. And I don't, as I said, I don't like the separation that we have in many occasions because of race. Obviously, I did my DNA analysis, and I am Native American to 35%, and European at about 40%, and all of the other races are included in my blood. So I don't think that should be a reason. If you are white or black or blue or green or whatever, that's nothing that has to do with you. It is your parents who gave you those characteristics. So it is not you. You didn't do anything about it. So don't worry about it. Just keep on. You are just a nice little human living in this world. So
you and Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts are both Native Americans. Wow, that's something. I am about 40% of it. Yeah, she's what, 1,124th. But hey, you know what? Everybody's got to point out the best parts of themselves, I guess, when it's politically expedient. Octavio Sanchez, it's a pleasure to meet you, sir. I really appreciate your story. Thanks for spending time with us this morning. Thank you very much, Paul, and keep on going. All righty, I will. You too, sir. Thank you. Folks, again, that's a great story there of Octavio Sanchez. And he, was born in Mexico. He came on an H-1 visa. He's been here for 20 years, went through the naturalization process, had a skill, was a civil engineer, worked construction. Now he works computers. Now he's the executive committee man on the Benton County Republican Party. He's also a city councilman in the city of Bentonville, and the left wants you to think that this merit-based immigration is racist and wrong, and we all know why they put out that false narrative, and it's because no one's voting for Democrats anymore. Now, I know they just took the House back, but let's be clear. On a statewide level, the state houses, no one's voting for Democrats. Now, here in Arkansas, I think we have our own problems because everybody used to vote Democrat, and then everybody was like, no, I'm going to vote Republican now because issue by issue, the Democrats have left me. And so then we had some Democrats that basically put on sheep's clothing and decided to be Republicans, and we're still dealing with that. It's much easier in Arkansas to throw out the Democrats and put Republicans in, and it's much harder to now find the Republicans that actually believe in the platform. And when you call them out, of course, the big government machine comes after you, and we've seen that countless times. But the bottom line is, nationwide, people are just not voting for Democrats. Okay, at the state house level, they have just lost election after election after election. And that's why the Democrat Party, in order to stay alive, in order to stay relevant, they really need a new, what's been called underclass. And that's what they see: unskilled illegal immigration, or low-skilled illegal immigrants. They see those people as the next voting bloc that will eventually be given amnesty, or they'll participate in the voter fraud the left says does not exist. Again, you don't know what you don't know, but they'll participate in that. And so, that's kind of where we are right now. And I was having a conversation about this with somebody the other day about how some people on the left have good intentions, especially if you're a young person on the left. You think, well, of course, the government should just take care of everybody. But it's really much more than that at the top. It's about power. And some of these people actually are at the very, very top. They're doing this because they want the policies to keep people in a permanent lower socioeconomic status. That's a lot more insidious. It's a lot more of an active deception. But I firmly believe those people exist at the upper echelons of the system at all levels. Okay, because they realize it's almost like the Democrat Party in a lot of ways hasn't changed at all from the Democrat Party of the Civil War, if you really think about it. Certainly on the issue of abortion, they're still in the business of deciding who's a person and who's not, based on some arbitrary human idea and thought. Used to be the color of their skin. Now it's, is it a clump of cells or not? Well, we'll draw the line here. Oh, is the baby out of the womb? Well, the mother and the doctor can keep it comfortable and decide at a later date. Folks, coming up at the bottom of this hour, we'll be talking with Joey McCutcheon about the Marshall's Museum. Don't go anywhere. Back in a minute.
The more government has gotten involved in our health care at any level, the more expensive it's gotten. And I think certainly there's an indirect link. I think it's a direct link. And so, on the flip side of that, if we're talking about getting government, getting the regulatory, the regulations out of the way, I think the price is going to go down. And that's the argument that's being made with a lot of these bills, If you give people more choice and there's more people that are able to provide that service in a free market, the price is lowered, and that's good for it's good for the people. I don't know if it's good if you're No,
I agree. I agree with you, Paul, and I think that's true not just in the medical community but anything. If you talk about I've dealt with ADQ a lot, and the same thing there. The more regulation you have, the higher the cost is to small businesses or any business. That's true anywhere. But we also are on the other flip side.
Exposing the truth and everything the Marble Palace establishment keep trying to cover up. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Back on March the 1st, this headline appeared on conduitnews.com. The headline, Property Tax Relief. Everybody wants property tax relief. Did you know there's a fund to help relieve your property taxes. Property tax relief hits a wall. Effort hijacked to divert funds. Legislation to increase the homestead property tax credit passed easily out of the Arkansas House of Representatives with 89 out of 100 votes before failing in the Senate Revenue and Tax Committee last week. HB 1321 by Representative Lanny Fite, a Republican from Benton, would have increased the tax credit by $25 for property owners. The fund for this property tax relief credit has risen to over $100 million. The increased credit would reduce the fund about $12 million. Part of Representative Fite's bill is to study possibly cutting the sales tax that directs money into this fund since it has grown so large, or to keep increasing the property tax credit. The bill was heard and failed in the Senate Revenue and Tax Committee last Wednesday. Representative Fite appeared on Conduit News with me the next day to discuss the bill. There he informed the public that a bill to increase the property tax credit filed by Senator Jim Hendren, the governor's nephew, had also been filed as a competing bill, SB 447. That bill, though, would divert funds from the Property Tax Relief Fund to first pay about $8 million for new voting machines, and then some of the money would go to general revenue. Representative Fite said he would oppose that effort by Senator Hendren and felt that the money should go for the purpose promised to the public to provide property tax relief, not to hijack the funds for general revenue. This hijacking and raiding of the fund was foreshadowed by a post over at Conduit for Action back in January. So that's up at Conduit News. You can check it out. Now, the update on this is headline from, is this from today? Panel backs bill to increase homestead credit. Wouldn't you know? Michael Wickline says, let's see here. The bill that the committee advanced in a voice vote to the full Senate is Senate Bill 447 by Senator Hendren. It would also divert the $8.2 million we mentioned for voting machines and move money into general revenue. Okay, let me read some of the high points of this article here. Hendren, according to Wickline, Hendren told the Senate committee that his bill is similar to a bill that you have heard several times already. It is an attempt at a compromise. I'm still hopeful that at some point we'll get to that point. But Lanny Fite said in an interview that he would try to persuade the House Revenue and Taxation Committee to defeat Hendren's bill if it clears the Senate. Okay? And then we have another headline, another part of the article skipping ahead. The legislature created the trust fund to store excess funds to use for future property tax relief, said Hendren, who served in the House from 95 through 2001. The trust fund has been raided a few times by the legislature and the governor's office for different projects to make up for funding shortfalls or for other reasons, he said. Money also has been transferred out of the fund to pay counties for their administrative costs of the tax credit, and the cities, quote, got a piece of the pie as well, and that works out to about $5 million a year. The idea that this trust fund is only going to fund homestead credits is just really not historically accurate. Well, that's true. Yeah, it's not historically accurate. Yeah, we know, but that doesn't mean that you continue a bad practice when the fund is promised to give us tax relief. Good grief. SB 447 would increase the homestead property tax the same amount by $25 from $350 to $375. And then we keep going down here. The remaining excess funds in the property tax relief trust fund transferred to general revenue could be used, quote, to offset some of the money we lost through tax cuts or provide future cuts or meet some of the other needs we have in the state. Okay, so it could try to make the tax cuts revenue neutral. It could be used for more tax cuts, or we could spend the money. I mean, translation, it could be used for anything. We really have no specific purpose for it. Let me see here. So the scenario that we have right now is just bad policy. It takes who is saying this? Is this no? This is Hendren. Bad policy. It takes sales tax revenue and reduces property taxes even further. So it continues to add to our regressivity of the tax code. Oh my gosh, regressive taxes. They're not a thing. Regressive taxes are not a thing unless you're playing in the progressive ballpark. Anyway, we got to take a break, folks. That's an update on what is a good idea being hijacked. Back in a minute.
We've got to protect our people, and I'll just throw it out here now. And I'm not sure whether I'm going to run this bill, but I have a bill that I may file today. The hepatitis A issue that we've had in northeast Arkansas and in western Arkansas a little bit. I'm concerned about people working in restaurants that might have that disease and pass that on to folks that go in there just to eat a meal. So I have a bill that I'm looking at where if we have a stressed county where you've had a lot of these cases, we may require restaurant workers to get the hepatitis A shot. Now, that's new regulation, right? And I don't like that. Generally, it will be paid for by insurance that these companies, restaurants already have, so it won't be an extra cost on the people. But, you got to protect people going in there to eat. And Kentucky's already done this.
Well, so, you know, what's interesting is the rest of the state that's listening right now, you guys might not know about this, Jack, but yeah, it seems like every month there's another restaurant where there's some hepatitis outbreak, and they're urging people to go get vaccinated. If you ate at restaurant A from this date to this date, then you need to get vaccinated because first of all, the cause of this, Jack, is, from what I can tell, is that we have a drug problem. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I have a source that says that there's that needle drugs, that doing drugs via needle are back in a big way because of the opioid crisis, and the crackdown on prescribing opioids has got people turning back to the real thing instead of the synthetic. Have you heard that at all, Jack?
I have. I've heard that that's the biggest cause, the needles, and people using other needles and passing that around, and I've heard that is the biggest cause of that outbreak. And Paul, it's almost an epidemic. I mean, I've got data on that I'll share with the committee if I run this bill or when I run it. And, there's over 380 cases in the 5 or 6 counties up there in northeast Arkansas. And it's not just us. They've had some in Fort Smith. Over in Kentucky, close to us, what is that county? Battered County, I believe it is. They actually passed a county ordinance that required that. And I think you're right. I think it is related to the drug problem that we have. That may not be 100% of it, but, we have to protect the public. And, I think this is a good example of you may have to add regulations, if it's necessary, if it's required. We should always push back on that, and I always try to do that and not add additional requirements for anybody or taxes or any of that stuff, because we don't want to do that. But, I mean, that's why I didn't sign a commitment to not raise it.
The intersection of conservative ideas and reality. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are joined once again by Smith attorney Joey McCutcheon's on the line. Joey, how are you this morning?
Morning, doing good, Paul. Thank you.
I wanted to have you on, talk a little bit more about this Marshall's Museum. What's the latest update on this? I know we got a special election coming up to raise the taxes on the citizens of Fort Smith.
Yep, we got a election coming up Tuesday. We're in early voting now. I'm really pleased from the no standpoint that we're having a lot of turnout. People are turning out, and I think that's good news. I think people see this. Already, Paul, cash out the door of over $11,300,000 before dirt was turned on this project. Already over $3.3 million in payroll expenses, and that's fine when it was billed as a private venture. But now that this Public Facilities Board, i.e., the citizens of Fort Smith, Arkansas, are going to be responsible for the debts if the museum fails, that changes the circumstances. Drastically.
No doubt. I'm seeing here on Facebook. Let's see. This was back on March the 4th, 3 days ago. The Marshall's Museum, you wrote, will be built with or without passage of their unfair sales tax. Otherwise, we've been scammed out of Marshall Museum payroll and consulting fees combined of over $10 million. Is that $10 million, Joey, before dirt was?
Yeah, over $10 million. You know, we've looked at the financial statements. We've FOIA'd the financial statements, expenses that they designate as expenses, and that's payroll of over $3 million. That's professional services of $1.4 million, more than that now. Marketing and advertising of over $300,000, and on and on. That's over $6 million right there. But what we also see are these consulting fees, which are buried. And again, it may be just an accounting bill. I'm not an accountant, so I don't know. But these consulting fees are buried in what is called in construction in progress. And the normal person like me, unless I've had an accountant like I have look at this stuff, you're thinking, what are these construction in progress costs? Well, what we see is that there's over $4.9 million, it looks like, in consulting fees. For example, design consultants. Over $2 million have already been spent in design consultants. But one thing that you just mentioned, this museum is going to be built with or without taxpayer dollars. I mean, they've already spent over $11 million on expenses before dirt was turned. They've gotten $8 million in general improvement fund money or other state grants. $8.3 million. You know, Fort Smith's already kicked in $300,000. Sebastian County's kicked in $230,000. And now they want $15 million on the backs of taxpayers in Fort Smith who are getting hit with huge utility bills. I mean, there's another scandal in Fort Smith. These water bills Fort Smith residents are getting water bills of $300 a month. I mean, one after another. You know, we have other priorities in Fort Smith. Let the Marshall's Museum is going to be here. I support the Marshall's Museum. I just don't. It's a matter of who pays for it.
Yeah. I think you're exactly right. Well, as a matter of fact, I mean, there are people who are listening right now on KFPW 96.7 FM, 1230 AM, The Marshall out of Fort Smith, the straight talker out of Fort Smith. So, I mean, you know, obviously the history there is rich because, you know, we have an affiliate there that's kind enough to carry the show. And, you know, the name is The Marshall. We understand that. But the fact of the matter is, from what I understand, Joey, this was sold to the people that this was going to be a private endeavor. And yet, I think if anything, this special election has kind of brought to the forefront the fact that there has been a lot of taxpayer money that's already been given to this Marshall's Museum plan.
A ton of taxpayer money, a ton. I mean, you know, I'm looking at $8.3 million in general improvement fund money. As I said, $300,000 from the city of Fort Smith, $230,000 from Sebastian County. You know, Fort Smith has one of the highest sales tax rates in the state right now. This will bump it over 10%. You know, hey, and I love the Fort Smith Boys and Girls Club. You know, they're trying to raise money for Hunts Park, where our kids play football. I think I'll go to the board and ask them if they'll create a public facilities board. Let's just do that publicly too. Where does this end, Paul? Where does this end? They'll do a favor for the Marshall's Museum. Are they going to do one for my passion, the Fort Smith Boys and Girls Club?
Yeah.
What about your passion of the day? Let the taxpayers, let's increase the sales tax up to 20%. It's just temporary, right? Temporary. We're going to own that property. Taxpayers of Fort Smith, through this Public Facilities Board. Public Facilities Board has no financial responsibility, although they're going to own the property. What?
Yeah, and
that makes no sense.
And you know, from the very beginning, we started covering this issue. There's a lot of real estate around there that's owned by other individuals who are all for this because they want their property values to go up. Is that correct?
Yeah, downtown developers are behind this. They're the Wizard of Oz that are pulling all the strings here, and they need to pay for it. But they you know, some of them have given a lot of money, but most of them haven't. And they need to pay for it. They don't need to put this on the backs of taxpayers of Fort Smith. I mean, we just had the crisis called the River Valley Sports Complex, where a state senator got a special deal. Again, it smelled to the Fort Smith Board of Directors ramrodded that through, and now we're paying the consequences. We've got a River Valley Sports Complex that is sitting barren because of a special deal cut, and they didn't listen to us then. And will they listen to us now? I think the voters are going to come out and
Senator Jake Files is paying the consequences too because he's in jail. So there's that.
That is true.
We need to remind people of that. Well, Joey, I appreciate it. Early voting's going on right now in Fort Smith. So if you don't want your taxes, if you're in Fort Smith, you don't want your taxes to go up, your sales taxes, then go and vote no. And the final vote will be this coming Tuesday.
That's right. And just remember, this isn't about whether the museum is going to be built. This is about who's going to pay for it, period. They've already constructed, the museum has already been being constructed. They've already spent $2 million on exhibit design consulting fees. Come on, the museum's coming to Fort Smith. I support the museum. The taxpayers shouldn't pay any more.
Joey McCutcheon, Fort Smith attorney. It's always great to have you on, sir. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
There is an interesting article in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette by opinion column. It's an opinion column by the most liberal guy, the most progressive guy in the state of Arkansas who's, I don't know, him and Max Brantley, maybe. John Brummett, saved by the minority. This is another example. Go ahead and chalk this up to one of the many articles where John Brummett, liberal progressive John Brummett, is praising Governor Asa Hutchinson for his policy achievements. I will just tell you this. There are a lot of people behind the scenes. There's a lot of people off the record that they understand the lack of conservative achievement over the last 4 years when it comes to the size and scope of the government of the state of Arkansas. Like, there's a lot of people that are it would surprise you. It would just surprise you. That's all I'm going to say. So here we go. Let's listen to this. Is John Brummett real quick. Saved by the minority. He writes, once again, Arkansas Democrats have risen from their ashes to deliver Governor Hutchinson from his Republican Party and the state from itself. Time and again over the years, Arkansas legislative Democrats have voted near unanimously in their anemic minority to accede Hutchinson's plea to continue Obamacare's Medicaid expansion in the state. Anemic is the wrong word, he writes, in some contexts, such as that one. Medicaid expansion requires a 3/4 majority, and the governor's own majority party is split between the reasonable and the not. He goes on, skipping down. We enjoy the Arkansas Works program, providing health insurance to more than 200,000 poor people, one of ACE's pride and joys. For one plain and simple reason, Arkansas legislative Democrats did the imperfectly right thing in order to serve the broader need, overlooking Republican meanness, such as the program's legally dubious work requirement. Skipping down. So on this most recent Monday, John Brummett writes, the small Democratic delegation held their noses and delivered amid broader imperfection the governor's reasonable highway program. That Democrats saved Asa and the state in the House on Monday on a highway program is simpler and clearer math, considering that passage required a simple 51-vote majority, and not even 74 Republicans could muster. Skipping down, Republicans voted 48-26 for the bill to impose a wholesale motor fuel tax amounting to 3 cents a gallon on gasoline and 6 cents a gallon on diesel fuel, and to index those rates for minuscule cost of business increases year to year. Republicans voted 45-29 to refer the voters a constitutional amendment permanently imposing a currently temporary half-cent sales tax with proceeds dedicated to highways. What that meant John Brummett writes, was that 3 of the 24 Democrats needed to vote for the fuel tax, and 6 of the Democrats needed to vote for the amendment referral. Skipping down. But the state House Democrats assuaged even that game. 23 of them dutifully voted for the fuel tax, and 22 of them dutifully voted to refer the constitutional amendment. Call it the right thing overkill. So, isn't that interesting? Skipping down. To be fair, Hutchinson has delivered too many millions to too many millionaires through tax cuts to be cast as anything other than a Republican. He's just not as unreasonable as most. He's at least as reasonable as the 9 House Democrats who passed his income tax cut for him. Hutchinson continues on some days, if more rarely than in his first term, to be not all that bad. That's John Brummett, liberal progressive. Will we ever get a governor? I'm just wondering if we'll ever get a Republican governor that the mainstream media treats like mainstream media is supposed to treat Republicans. It's weird. So Democrats, let's talk more about Democrats in our time left. If you're just joining us, my goodness, I'm revisiting this because it's the most explosive audio that you're going to hear all day. We're going to cue this up. Yesterday, Senator Bob Ballinger tried to get a stand your ground law passed out of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and Senator Stephanie Flowers was having none of it, and she was triggered, went on a tirade. Some have called it a racial tirade. We've got the audio only because there's 4-letter words in it. For our online audience, bear with us, and we'll get back to the video here in a minute. This is Senator Stephanie Flowers from yesterday evening in the Senate Judiciary Committee. Listen.
Well, the chair formally voted no, but I'm going to let y'all off easy and vote yes, and it's going to pass 5-3.
Okay.
Because prior to the night, y'all have been really good. So, and now we know. Now we know why we want to limit debate.
Yeah. Well, Matt, make a comment. Matt, comment.
Quickly.
I'll be as quick as I can, as quick as it takes to kill somebody, I guess. You want me to be that quick. But, as Ms. Fletcher pointed out, and it doesn't take much to look on the local news every night and see how many black kids, black boys, black men are being killed with these stand your ground defenses that these people raise. Then they get off. So I take issue with that. I'm the only person here of color, okay? I am a mother, too. And I have a son. And I care as much for my son as y'all care for y'all's. But my son doesn't walk the same path as yours does. So this debate deserves more time. I'm in Pine Bluff. We have killings regularly down there. Mr. Hunter knows, he's our prosecutor. Now, I don't know I know where you are from, Gary. And I don't know really where Mr. Ballinger is from. But I can tell you that for a long time since I've been back here in Arkansas, I have feared for my son's life. Now, he's 27, he's out of Arkansas. And I thank God he is. When you're bringing up crap like this, it offends me. And then to limit the debate too, this is crazy. You don't have to worry about your children, Will. I worry about my son. And I worry about other little black boys and girls. And people coming into my neighborhood, into my city, saying they got open carry rights, walking down in front of my doggone office in front of the courthouse. That's a bully. Do I have a right to stand my ground with some crazy-ass person walking around with a doggone gun? I don't know what the hell he intends to do. But I know I am scared. I feel threatened. Just like some of y'all walking around here up in the legislature with these damn guns. That, what's his name, Garner came in here, walking around here with a damn gun under his coat. You can see the damn print.
Senator, you need to stop.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't. What the hell you gonna do? Shoot me?
Senator.
Senator, go to hell. I'm telling you, this deserves more attention. You want to come up here with all these little NRA bills and bills that Alec have and all that stuff. I'm talking about my son's life. And I'm talking about the lives of other black kids. Do what the hell you want to do. Go ahead, but you can't silence me. You got your damn silence gun out the damn chamber today, but you are not going to silence me.
Senator Flowers, if anybody hasn't tried to silence you, it's me.
All right. Well, she says you're not going to silence me. Cue up the next cut, Joe. We don't have a lot of time. When she says she's not going to silence me, she's talking about a bill that was an attempt to make state law conform with federal law when it comes to getting a suppressor or a silencer on your gun. So that really made her mad. So she kind of, it's kind of like I don't know. You know how things kind of build up sometimes, and then you just all comes out at once. Guys, you know what I'm talking about. Who are married, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? You're in a situation and you're like, wow, I forgot. I mean, that was like 3 weeks ago. Why are you bringing this up now? Why did you bring this up 3 weeks ago when it annoyed you so much? And why is it all coming now? I'm going to get myself in trouble. Here is the next clip. The next clip was, so she took a break, smoked a cigarette, came back, and then got real personal. Listen, this is Democrat Senator Stephanie Flowers yesterday, triggered by a stand your ground proposal.
Mr. Stubblefield, further discussion from the committee?
I'll say this. I'll discuss.
Okay, I think, Senator Bond, did you? Go ahead, Senator Flowers.
You know, I think with this bill, I think, at least for me, and because of who I am, what I look like, I would feel threatened by anybody coming around, especially you, Senator Ballinger. You are threatening to me and to my family. And I can't imagine you. Well, let me finish. It's not your time. But obviously, you're from a part of the state where you don't see people of color so much. And some of the things that, the behaviors that I have, the expressions that I make, the way I express myself, probably would make you feel threatened. But it wasn't intended that way. And people from different cultures, particularly black people, the people that I grow up around and I live around, that live around me, they feel threatened by a person like you walking into their community, just like that man down there in Zimmerman in Florida felt about Travion. Walking in his daddy's community, but that guy had never seen him. And he's going to demand what he's doing. Well, I'm not going to take the time when you come down there to Pine Bluff to tell me that. But you can be assured that I'll have my doggone gun there. And I'll feel threatened. And I wonder whether I will be justified with a stand your ground defense. Because walking around with guns on your hip and under your coat, and you can see the imprint It's threatening. You don't know the circumstances that people have gone through. We got killings down there in Jefferson County all the time. And people feel threatened. And I don't know where you come from with all this. Is your community so bad that are you planning to come down to Jefferson County with this crap? And if you do, we're going to have a response. And we're going to invoke this stand your ground defense if this thing passes.
Senator Bond?
And I know we're ready to go, but at some point we've heard from the prosecutors, we've heard from sheriffs.
Yeah, I really feel like that was a threat. I don't know about you. Senator Alan Clark is the senator you see there sitting beside her. He is the chair of the committee. He posted this on Facebook. Here's all you need to know from me. The person you are going to be talking about on social media and elsewhere is a friend of mine. I love her like a sister. She was out of order. I handled it. If it weren't for the stupid cameras, that would be the end of it. We are adults here. We get paid the big bucks to deal with the people's business, outbursts and all. Sometimes people get emotional. Sometimes they have a bad day. You may make it for your entertainment, but that is not what it is intended for. Like I said, it is handled. If anyone wants to do anything more, they will have to go through me. I will fight them every inch of the way, and I do not want to hear about it on my page or elsewhere. It's like family. I can say what I want about family, but I don't want to hear it from others. She will have enough to deal with without piling on. What you can do is pray for her, me, and the rest of us. It is that time of the session where nerves get raw, fuses get short, and things get said that are later regretted. Trust me, I've had some moments I'm glad are not on video. That's the chair, the Republican Senator Alan Clark. Now, if you go watch the full video, you'll see Senator Clark, I think, handled himself under pressure extremely well. But I am glad the cameras were there to catch this madness. Because this is the Democrat left. Back in just a moment.
Taxes, because there may be cases where you have to.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that, Jack.
I was hoping we wouldn't get into that, Paul.
I bet you were. So we've already talked, off the air. I unless something's changed. You are on board with the governor's highway plan that includes taxing a new tax on the gas and diesel at the wholesale level. Tell us about that, Jack. Why are you supportive of it?
Paul, I don't hide. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to tell people. And as you probably know, this is my third term. I've never voted for a tax increase since I've been here, and I don't want to, but. There are things that are needed. Our highway system, you've talked about this on your program a number of times. It is in bad shape. We have kicked the can down the road. I hate to use a term that's been used over and over, but that's exactly what we've done. And we have to have good.
Need your daily news fix? Don't forget to tune in to Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
I have about a minute left. This time yesterday, I was telling you about the dump fire or the stump fire in Bella Vista. The Arkansas legislator committing $20 million to try to stop this underground stump fire. But we have today a story out saying that the most recent air testing done by the Arkansas National Guard showed no evidence indicating a potential risk to public health from chemicals in the air from the underground fire burning at the dump site along, is this Trafalgar Road, according to the Arkansas Department of Health. Folks, I sat there yesterday and watched these guys approve millions upon millions of dollars for this underground stump fire. And there was no debate. And yet they debated and had like 5, 6, 7 questions after the award ceremony was over. They had 5 or 6, 7 questions about trying to change grave robbing from a misdemeanor to a felony, a Class D felony after the second time you rob from somebody's grave. For the second offense, they debated more on that than allocating millions and millions of dollars for underground fire. That's some private citizen's fault for dumping it and burying it in the first place. It's just an observation I had. Also, the awards have got to stop.